Welcome, everyone. I'm Sandra Bargman. A few years ago, I wrote and performed a solo show called The Edge of Every Day, which was an exploration of the rough edges and contradictions we all face and grapple with. The show hit a nerve, and the relevance of the topic would only grow over time more than I could have foreseen. So, here we are. Real talk with real people, sharing stories and perspectives that spark provocative invitations to leap out of what's safe, on the edge of every day. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the edge of every day here at TalkRadio.NYC. Tonight, we are live in the Hive with international singer-songwriter and healer Peruquois for our 50th episode entitled The Edge of Both Worlds on this powerful date of 12/12/22. For those of you who have become loyal listeners, thank you so much for spending time with me and my guests. Our numbers keep growing, and I have you to thank. I couldn't do it without you. Please continue to share this podcast with friends and family, and take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sandra Bargman, on the Edge of Every Day. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to The Edge. If you like what you hear and you want to last episode of my inspiring guests, you can find them on TalkRadio.NYC, your favorite podcast platforms, and on my YouTube channel. Again, that's Sandra Bargman, on the Edge of Every Day. This is a show about pushing boundaries and exploring rough edges through conversations and shared stories with friends and colleagues. It's my hope that we can begin to understand our edges. And what I mean by edges is those places where we are fearful, those places where we're resistant to change, those places where paradoxes and contradictions live in our beliefs and in our understandings, both internally and in the world around us. Listen, we live in edgy, tumultuous times, and people are complex. The more we recognize our own edges and get real about them, the more we can help others to do the same. And that, I fully believe, can help to change the world. So thanks again for tuning in. And without further ado, it is time to introduce our guest this week. International recording star, composer, renowned wisdom teacher, accomplished female shaman, master of multicultural music, from jazz to Indian classic to a sound uniquely her own, Peruquois opens women to the part of themselves often long buried, or maybe never even discovered. She is committed to helping women experience a true, deep love of themselves, bringing forth an extraordinary healing sound that is part singing in a range never heard before on the planet, and part multi-dimensional healing. Peruquois fills huge stadiums, arenas, and concert halls around the world. Here in North America, she is still a mystery to be discovered, but it's only a matter of time. Using an ultra-high, low overtone form of singing that she developed, Peruquois can produce up to 4 voices at a time, a unique sound that has been scientifically tested during her concerts to heal. But it's her remarkable story of how this voice unfolded that is so compelling. Her influence has spread through the success of globally explosive CDs, along with concerts and workshops around the world. Peruquois' first public performance using her unique ultra-high-low overtone singing occurred in 2016 at a meditation concert, Voice and Cosmos, at the largest planetarium in Europe. From 2000 to 2017, she has put out a total of 12 CD albums. Branded as the voice of the sacred feminine and the voice of Mother Earth, Peruquois expresses the very feminine soul of sound and has created deep practices called vocal yoga, vocal tantra, and emotional cleansing that have become part of the foundation for her potent workshops. You can find her at Peruquois.com. Welcome, Peruquois. You need to unmute, my friend.
Very, very happy to be with you and with your audience.
It's good morning to you.
Yes, it's very good.
And where are you tuning in from?
Today I'm tuning in from Thailand.
Oh, I love it. That's a beautiful background. We're envying you your warmth.
Oh, last time I was in Russia, so I've definitely gone up a few degrees.
Well, it's not too cold here, although we did have a glorious, glorious snowfall here in the Catskill Mountains that was just light and fluffy and magical.
Oh, I love that.
Truly, truly.
When I'm in the tropics is the snow.
Yes. Well, before we dive in, I like to tell my friends, my listeners and friends, how my guests have come to me. And you came through Sam Leibowitz, our fearless leader at TalkRadio.NYC, but we had a lovely connection pre-chat prior. And I feel through that conversation and through all of the wonderful research that I did on you this week that we are friends, and it's beautiful.
Yes, I felt that too. Just a very intimate connection.
Indeed, indeed. So,
but I think many of your audience feel that way with you.
Oh, aren't you? Well, I hope so. That's my goal. That's very kind of you. We're trying to have some real conversations here, Peruquois. I mean, you know, what else are we going to have in these days, these tumultuous times?
Absolutely.
Where people really need to get real, and they need to get real about the things that are the changes, the quick changes that we're going through here on Mother Earth. Oh, beautiful. She agreed. The bird behind you agreed. So anyway, my first question for you is one that I absolutely adore asking because it elicits such a vast array of responses. And given the times that we're in, and given the identity fluidity that we are embracing in our times, and given the identities that I know that you have moved through in your life. Today, in 2022, what identity or identities do you lead with, Peruquois?
Do I lead with?
Do you lead with?
You know, identity for me has been one of those wonderful teachers where I built an identity, you know, and in my earlier life, I've had a few. I was the jazz singer, and that identity got destroyed. The next identity that grew was I was very much the medicine woman when I was married to a Native American shaman. And after about maybe 12 years, I got so sick with that identity because everybody said, you're so strong, you can help me to heal, etc. And it was a very, very heavy identity to carry, you know, to be somebody for a lot of people. So I actually had to kill that identity, and I nearly died whilst I was doing it. And because when I was killing this identity, and it was a subconscious killing, because I mean, I just realized that I could not be this anymore, and it was not really truly who I was. It was me trying to fulfill a role that my first husband had put on me, the medicine man shaman. And when I faced it, it was like something inside was also dying with it. So I got terribly, terribly sick, which is often what happens when we're facing, and I have kind of a false identity that we've created, you know?
Yes.
And my back collapsed. I got terrible fungus in my body. It was really close to death. And eventually that identity died. And it was terrifying because it was like, well, who am I if I'm not that, you know?
Yeah.
And then out of that grew a whole new woman. And for a long time, I was very much the woman of tantra and a woman of like a teacher for people. So I went from the medicine woman to kind of this very sensual teacher or feminine teacher to women. And at the time I was also with a tantric realized man, and so I built a whole identity around being that very sensual tantric teacher. Well, that identity I realized had to die as well.
Yes.
And that was yet another painful death, because what that identity made me realize was that I didn't need to be anything in terms of a something. Eventually, what it led me to was this enormous, enormous, enormous love inside. And um, and I realized that I wasn't an identity. I was actually the expression of that love. And that love has so many different faces, you know, and, you know, especially being in a woman's body, it's like always changing, like every minute. 1 minute I'm like a girl, next minute I'm like a wise woman, next minute I'm like, you know, I'm the singer, I'm the performer, next minute, I don't know, I'm just being stupid with my daughter. It's like, and now what I feel like I have is fluidity. You mentioned this word earlier in your speech, is fluidity, where I'm not locked into an identity, but what I do see in the world is people want to make identities out of
Indeed.
you.
Out of you,
And,
and they want to cling to them for themselves.
and it's for themselves. And so whenever anybody says, oh, you're this, it's like, I know that I'm this. Like, for example, I might say, you're like my mother, you're my spiritual mother, or something like this. I'll say, well, I understand that they're learning to mother themselves inside, right? And I'm mirroring that wise woman that's inside of them. Or they'll say to me, you're like a goddess, you're so beautiful, etc. And I say, yeah, this is the beauty that's opening inside of her. She's really starting to see it now. So that's why she can see it in me. So I've learned that any identities that, you know, that people put on me is definitely because they're seeing things inside themselves. And that's really freeing, you know, because
Yeah, truly.
then I don't have to be in anything, and I can be very fluid between whatever that moment of life inspires it from
Calls
inside.
you.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at in terms of
I love
identity.
it. I love it. And your spiritual mother is a perfect seg. We're going to need to go on break. But the idea of you as spiritual mother is a perfect seg into what I want to focus on in our next section. We're going to go for a couple of minutes break, and you're going to get muted, and you're going to need to unmute when we come back in. But before we do that, I'm going to in preparation, I've lit a candle for our time together and said my prayers, and I want to read this opening invocation in honor of our conversation before we go to break. You who are as vast as the universe, and you who are as personal as my heartbeat, help me always to speak the truth quietly, to listen with an open mind when others speak, and to remember the peace that may be found in silence. The wisdom of the universe is truth, and this wisdom, love, and truth flows through me. Help me to be a person of truth in all that I say and in all that I do. Open the gate of consciousness through the beauty and the power of our voices and of our love, and allow each of us to be seen and to be heard more fully. And so it is. And when we come back with Peruquois, we are going to dive into the theme of the mother, the spiritual mother, when we come back with Peruquois on the edge of every day. Stay tuned.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargeman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it pours
On the edge of every day. And we are back. And we are back. We'll need you to unmute. There she is. And we are back with the wonderful Peruquois, Francis. Although you go by Peruquois, which I love. You're just Peruquois. I love that. Okay. So in listening to your story, I was so the word mother just kept coming up and coming up and coming up in all of the wonderful research and listenings that I've done with all of your online presence. And I thought, wow, what a mother theme you have. Spiritual mother theme, you know, your relationship. And I use the term mother wound, meaning the relationship that we have with a mother that can be a result of the patriarchal society that we live in. And it doesn't necessarily mean to imply that you have a horrible relationship with your mother, although that can be the case. But, you know, you had an interesting relationship, I won't speak for you, about with your mother. And then, you know, then you've moved, and it can be translated into your relationship with Mother Earth. So at 15, you left home. And then you connected with another mother figure at 17 who was to change your life. Can you give us that story, that portion of your life that led into your discovery of all of this vocal prowess?
Yeah, definitely. You know, sometimes when we have a very difficult relationship, and I've definitely spoken to a lot of different women about a similar story.
I rest assured you have.
Often the parting of the relationship is quite early in life, you know, and it was for me, for sure. My mother actually moved away from me when I was 15 and married a man, lived in another part of the state. And it was my great blessing, actually, in a way. And when I was 16, she said to me, my daughter, I need to sell this house because I'm too in debt. So you need to go and rent somewhere. Like, just look in the newspaper, go and rent an apartment with somebody, you know. I can contribute a very small amount of money to your rent, but that's it. You know, you're kind of on your own. And so that's what I did. And I moved in with somebody I didn't know. And which, you know, is kind of part of the initiation, I think, especially in the West, where you go and rent a house.
You go out on your heroine's journey and you meet someone in the woods.
Absolutely. Well, who I met in the woods was another black sheep, a bit like me. And she was about 21, single mother. She was a musician and a failed university student because she'd become a single mother. And when I met her, it was like her daughter completely claimed me as a mother. And she herself, we became like sisters. And the first thing she recognized in me, she said, "Oh my God, you've got the most beautiful singing voice. You know, are you trained?" And I said, "Oh, no. It was just kind of like a childhood dream. You know, when I was 5 years old, I thought I'd be a singer. And I grew up with musician grandparents. So I'd sung a lot as a
Your
kid.
mother was not?
But my mother was totally anti-music. She was just like, for her, music meant poverty. So she was terrified that her daughter would become a singer or something. So she completely pressed the music down in me. And so I would go to my grandparents and be like singing and so happy, you know, and then I come back home to my real life, and it was, and that's how I lived my life. Left my wing, you know, at 15. And so by the time I was 16, something was brewing inside. And suddenly it got recognized by this flatmate who was a musician. She said, "My God, what's this voice you've got?" And I said, by this stage, I devalued it so much that I wasn't even singing. I wasn't training. And she said, "No, I'm going to stand for you. I'm sending you to a music teacher, and you've got to go and do some lessons," which is what I did. And I remember my first lesson, she said, "What do you want to sing?" And I started singing something with her. It was an old jazz tune because my grandparents were jazz musicians. And I'm crying and crying, and I'm so embarrassed. And this woman was quite a mature teacher. And she said, "Don't worry, dear, it's normal." Well, every time I went to her, I cried my eyes out because all this emotion was coming out of me, you know. And my soul
And
was
grief.
really in grief. It was grief.
Yes.
And my soul, like, finally, she's,
Yes.
you know, she's on the path, you know. And well, I told my mother just before my 17th birthday, I said, "You know what, Mom, I don't think I'm going to be a psychologist." She said, "What?" And I said, "No, I think I'm going to be like a singing actress." And she laughed at me. She said, she said, "You don't have that kind of gift. You can't
Oh
sing."
my goodness, Peruquois. Wow.
And I said, "Yeah, and tomorrow I'm getting on a bus and I'm going to the other side of the country, which was 40 hours away, and I'm going to go to Neva, which was my mother's sister." And she said, "What? You're going to her? She's crazy." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go and visit her." Well, I went to my auntie. I got off the bus, and she said, "Oh, I have a surprise for you. I'm taking you to the forest for a week with some horses." Well, it was it was basically just before my 18th birthday now. And she said to me, "I've had a vision."
Mm.
And she said, "I've seen your life, and you're not going to be like a singing actress. You're going to be a jazz musician. You're going to be a jazz singer, and you're going to go to conservatorium, and you know you're going to then go to the biggest city in Australia, which is Sydney, and then to America, and then to the world stage." And I was like, "Auntie, that is insane because you know how much musical I have training, like, you know, a few months of classes."
But you
It's
did.
but it's impossible. And I did.
Yes.
So it was a year of really hard work, a lot of emotional cleaning actually at this stage, because in the same moment as I had this vision from my auntie, her boyfriend in that forest raped me. And I lost my
Oh.
virginity to the man who was my dearest, my auntie was my dearest, like, inspiration. And I lost my virginity to her partner in that forest. And I was suddenly a mess, you know, but at the same time, my vision had, like, my inspiration had switched on. So it was all happening at once. And so basically, I took a year to recognize that this calling was not just to sing for jazz, but to sing for healing, you know? And she made me write that vision down, and I did. And at the same time, I realized I had to heal the pain inside of me that I was carrying from this rape that eventually I revealed to her. I kept her a secret for the first couple of months. But then I revealed, you know, yes, he raped me. And so that actually is what totally switched on my healing process, because I realized that I couldn't carry the grief and the shame inside of me that I felt. And what did I do to heal it? I went into the forest and I started to walk every day. And And I started to just let this pain come out of me. And first of all, I started using sounds, just like, oh, like grieving kind of sounds, you know. And those grieving sounds turned into like, oh, and all these strange sounds start to come out of me. It was kind of like somewhere between singing and sounding. And I actually started to let all of that grief and that shame, pain out of my body. And that actually began my real connection between the voice and healing. So it's amazing how the most awful thing can also be the thing that opens us up to some new understanding.
Yeah, the dark nights of the soul, the major traumas on that heroine's journey that just kept going for you. So you did become a jazz singer, and you were a part of that world and lived in the city and really, you know, and grew that identity. And then we've got 2 minutes to break. So, but let's keep with this and we can pick it up after the break. And then you met someone who was to change your life and also contributed to all of this growth and connection with the healing and the voice. And how did that happen? How did that occur? It was with your aunt, yes?
Actually, no, I'd already moved, but I was in the second step of the vision she'd made for me. So I was in Sydney, Australia by this stage on the opposite side of the country. But she was definitely a trigger. She said, there's a man coming and you have to meet. You know, she said, you know, she was a psychic. And she said, you have to go to this spiritual festival. It was a huge spiritual festival. Go to this and you will meet a Native American medicine man there. I followed her advice. And I went to this conference and I heard this voice. That was the first thing. And I hear this voice and I'm like following it like I'm in a daze almost. And there was this big Native American standing on stage, fully dressed in traditional regalia with feathers and leathers and bones and everything.
Central casting.
At the end of his session on stage, I went to him and I said, listen, I've had this realization about this power of healing, but I have no idea how to use my voice for it. And he said, so what, you sing? And I said, yes. And I sang something for him. And he said, tomorrow I want you to come and stage with me and sing with me. And I was like, oh, okay. You know? And so the next day I went to this conference and he said, a little lady's going to get on stage. And this is just to show you that you don't need a voice to sing. If you have heartbeats, you have rhythm, right? And he called me onto the stage and something profound happened. And maybe we need to go to break at this stage.
We did something profound happen. Well, just finish the statement, because when we come back from break, I want to dive into your work with women and why your time is now in America and the whole, and you know, you've got to be doing your work here in America. But finish this story and then we'll go to break.
Okay. So what had happened just 2 weeks before was that I had stood on the side of the ocean on a mountain and had gone into a deep calling, like, why am I so lost? Why am I so alone? Why am I so unfulfilled by the jazz? And this answer came through me and took me very deeply. And it came from all the elements. I started to sing with the elements for the first time really in my life. Now, all that energy that had come up through me at that dark night of the soul, it rose on that stage 2 weeks later when I'm suddenly with this Native American. And this power came through me and I started to sing in a different way than I ever had as a jazz singer. It was totally intuitive, as if this energy was rising up from the earth. And when I finished singing, he was blown. He just grabbed me and he said, we've many paths to travel together, many people to meet. This is our destiny.
Oh my goodness. I have chicken skin, as we say, goosebumps. We must go to break and we're going to move on when we come back. I so want to hear about your workshops, and I want to hear about how you discovered this overtone singing, etc., and how you're working with women and how you're helping women to break open and connect with their sensuality, etc., etc. When we come back, folks, stay tuned. We'll be back with Peruquois after this break.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.NYC. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.NYC, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rains, but it pours.
On the edge of every day, and we are back with Peruquois. So, Peruquois, I'll need you to unmute. So, in working with primarily women, I understand that this is for both men and women, but it's primarily, your call has been to work with feminine spiritual awakening. Tell us in your description, what is that?
It's actually very, very simple. It's a restoration of a true woman's nature on the planet,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We are innately connected to the planet, whether we're men, whether we're women, and both of us have forgotten. And it's like the energy of the body has gone more up and up and up and up into the mind.
Brain.
Yeah, the thoughts, thinking, which is why we see such a psychosis on the planet, such difficult times. Because this connection is truly the feminine connection, whether you're a man or a woman actually, is through the body. And the body is made up of the same minerals as the earth. We carry this energetic flow from the earth, the vibration field of the earth. And of course, we have our own soul, but it's very much, the body is intricately, the health, both physical, spiritual, the sense of joy and happiness is totally connected through the body and through our being in the body, not just in the mind, but down deep in all of the centers of the body. And feminine energy is built so beautifully in our body that we are built in such a way that our sexual centers, our vagina, our womb, our heart, our breasts, are built for connection, for pleasure, for love, for the flow of love. And something I realized just before I met that Native American medicine man, was this enormous love flowing up. It's totally unconditional flow from the planet. It's not like a human love, because it's not like soft and cuddly. It's like this vibrational field of love that gives life, like a wholesome fabric of life in a myriad of forms and shapes and vibrations and colors and sounds. And this is her. And when we cut this connection to her through believing more in progress, mind, logic, you know, future rather than being capitalism, rather than being fully in the body of love, you know, then we lost something very, very important. So to me, it's all-inclusive spirituality, you could say, in that it's about just coming back to the body, getting the body open, the flow of love up through the body. You could say it's from the earth, but it's also all the way through the whole body's field, you know, to get that flowing. And when that energy is flowing, we come back into that original healthy earthly fabric. And that fabric says there's love here, you know, there's life here, there's death here. All of it's going on here, and it's going on inside of my body. So what I found for women is fundamental is to clear the life channel, because this life channel that flows from the soul, from the crown, down, you know, through the body, all the way down through the sexual center, through the feet, it gets all blocked up with a lot of emotion, a lot of these traumas. And if we understand that fundamentally in the world, our sexuality has been deeply distorted, deeply used, abused, misunderstood,
objectified,
projectified, and even with women ourselves, we're also perpetuating this distorted feminine sexual energy, and we don't even know that we're hurting ourselves.
Right, and you have personally done this work through all of your work, through your jazz singing, and then opening up to Mother Earth. I mean, this is something that the agonizing work that you personally, the edge of that work that you had to do.
Absolutely, because when I was that young jazz singer, you know how you feel in your 20s. It's like you want to be seen, you dress. I mean, you do everything so that when you go into the world, you're adored, or you're desirable, you're sexy, you know, you're all of that. And my whole identity was built around that. And I guess perhaps because I realized my calling very young, it didn't matter calling. And that calling was about true energy, true love, true sound, true vibration. So living from that overly sexualized woman and very masculine drive, like trying to be one of the guys, trying to be cool like other musicians.
Very ambitious, yeah.
Very ambitious. It tore me to pieces very young. So I realized that was not the way for me. And as we see now with social media, etc., that women are actually the ones sexualizing themselves constantly on camera. And they're hurting themselves because they have this, what they really want when they're like, you know, in front of the camera, what they really want is to truly be seen for who they are, to be seen as this loving, beautiful woman, because that's what a woman is when her flow of love is actually flowing from inside, not just projecting her sexuality and her beauty from outside. It's a very fulfilled and deeply disturbing place, because what happens for her is she puts herself into the world every day, whether it's in the streets, whether it's on social media, but she overly sexualizes herself or pretends or tries to force a presence of beauty without doing the work inside to find this sweetness, this nectar, this elixir of feminine energy that naturally flows when she does feminine meditation.
And is that what you do in your workshops?
Yes.
Connect women to all of that. And of course you do that in all of your music. My goodness. Your music is spectacular.
It's, you know, the music is a way to vibration, like women switch it on, they go, you know, like, me, life's good. They want to dance, they want to move, they want to, they feel this attunement of love, because that's who we are, right? And in the workshop space, in the retreat space, or even on my online courses, it's very much about cleaning out all of those distortions and those really painful experiences that we've gone through as women in a world that doesn't truly understand feminine energy.
Indeed, as we are breaking through the patriarchy. So let's specifically zero in on your emotional cleansing work, because that's a program that is that from what I understand is complete. I'm sure they all are this, but that is something that people around, all of the listeners, can access immediately to what you're talking about. So tell us about that, the emotional cleansing program.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we carry so many deep emotions, and I found in woman's body, those emotions, they root when they're like, let me give you an example. When you go through an abortion, for example, and a lot of women have been through an abortion, it's a hot topic in America. It's a very sad thing going on there. But let's look into the subject. For example, you go through an abortion, you're not supported emotionally.
No.
There's a shame often that you feel about it, either within yourself, maybe from your family, maybe from your partner, just from society itself. And you carry this deep wound inside, not to mention the pain that a woman innately feels when she lets go of the spirit of a child, right?
Yeah.
So it's on all kinds of levels, not to mention physical pain that you go through in a, right? So there's all of this thick, heavy energy that's inside her womb, because that's a life center, right? And so when a woman finally gets held by my work, when she comes into my space, whether it's online, offline, she said, your womb is your center of life, your creativity. It's what you relate to the world through, you know? And if it's full of pain, then you literally shut down a big part of your feminine energy, your feminine power, and it has to be cleaned. So I found that sound is the most powerful, instant way to actually clear that deep trauma, because what happens to women when they go through something traumatic, mostly they carry it silently inside, whether it's abortion, rape, a painful birth, a difficult relationship. We carry it silently inside, and it goes into those feminine centers, like the womb, if we're speaking about anything birth related, and it gets stuck there. And so when she uses her voice, then she's given full permission to let that pain out that she couldn't let out at the time. Nobody knew how to help her at the time, you know? So then what I thought, okay, sometimes I can't be in the room with the women, right? Because they're on the other side.
Rest assured, sure, it's huge.
So I created soundtracks where I'm using my voice to create this holding mother space for her, so that she can feel totally unconditionally, lovingly supported, like she's being mothered with my voice. And I would create that frequency for her to tune into. Now we're talking about abortion here or anything womb related. It's grief energy, right?
It's rage. My goodness.
Exactly. It's grief and often it's rage. Rage is first level, grief is underneath.
Is right underneath it.
And when she's given permission, and I'm starting to tune her into that, these kind of vibrations, I created a whole soundtrack around grief for her to completely go inside, and I'll take her in through like a trance-like meditation process, so she can enter her womb and her body and start to let go, and then let that womb come into a voice, like let it have its voice. And the sounds coming out of her are sometimes phenomenal, because often phenomenal. And often in a workshop space, sometimes I've got like 300 women in the room, and you would not believe the sound of woman releasing her rage and her grief. It is something like the most powerful sound I think I've ever heard on the planet, is when women come together and release this grief and rage, you know, through their own voice.
Yes.
And so then I created that practice so she could also do that home. And then one of the most fundamental things for us women is to feel that we are held. So I always invite into this kind of practice a girlfriend, somebody that she feels like a mother figure or a friend that can hold her womb, so it says to her body, it's okay, my love, you can let go, you are held, So I created a whole series of emotional cleansing practices. I've spoken about grief, that's one emotion, right? Anger, getting totally in tune with anger and letting it, and I created this wild soundtrack with my music so she can just totally let it come through her body, dance it through, sound it through. Or we look into the emotion of guilt, one of those things that we carry inside.
Guilt and shame. Oof.
Guilt and shame, it's huge, and it creates a tight woman inside with secret, and she's not really competitive, and she's not honest in her relationships when she's got guilt, because she's got a dirty secret inside, so she thinks, And there's a whole practice that I give her through this emotional cleanse to release it, to meet that guilt, to find the source of it, and to completely forgive herself, to dissolve it, and to let her heart open again. So she starts to access this big womanly flow of love again. So this is a lot. I've just mentioned 3 emotions, but there's about 5 or 6 different courses on the site, depending on what emotion you're trying to meet and heal inside your body. And the voice is very important. Of course, breath, sometimes movement with it, but always rooted in a lot of love and being held by this motherly energy that I hold for a woman going through that locked, awful, dark energy that she's carried inside of herself.
Spectacular. And so needed. My goodness, my goddess, so needed. We need to go to break. There's so much to unpack there, but I have a million questions for you in only an hour. So there's only so much I can get to with you. And perhaps I'll just have to get you on again, because for our last section, I would love it, truly. For our last, when we come back from break, and it'll be a short last section because we've gone over in our third one, but I do want to talk quickly about Overtone and your concerts and your book quickly, where people can find you. And when we come back, I'm going to jump to it. When we come back with Peruquois on the Edge of Everyday. Stay tuned, folks.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.NYC, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.NYC.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on TalkRadio.NYC, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it pours
on the edge of every day. And we are back with Peruquois. So I need to dive into, you need to unmute, please. We need to dive in. I want to make sure that we talk about your exquisite music, this incredible genre that you've created that's part sometimes jazz, sometimes part jazz. Talk to us about this genre.
Okay, so what it is a super mix, because I've traveled so much around the world, and I've drunk from a lot of cups: Indian classical, Middle Eastern chill out music, tribal music, and so it's a blend, but always at the center of the theme of that blend is waking up, is celebrating life, love, supporting this energy growing in us to make us bright, to make us shining, to open our heart. So it could be in the style of R&B, it could be in the style of Middle Eastern dance music, it could
world beat,
all
of it.
All of it. Because I mean, that's what when you said about your identity, I think it reflects in the music as well. I'm not locked into that. And musically, I'm not locked into a style, because my big question to the Mother Earth was, what's the source of sound, And she has many, many vibrations depending to where you go to in the world. We look at all the different musical expressions on the planet. And so I've been a drinker of all of these different cups, but at the center has always been, how can this music not only heal people, but it's part of my own healing, So when I've gone through anything, I've composed. I go through an experience, great love, I compose. Leaving my love, I compose.
Yes.
Birthing a baby, I compose. It's like, and then it went a little bit deeper again, beyond the lyrical world, because I started to work a lot in countries that do not speak English, right? And I started to merge this world of practice, where I'm giving women feminine practice, as you know, and then these soundtracks that are not with words, but are vibrational to tune to the body. So if I want to wake up the centers in the woman's body, for example, I want to wake up her womb energy, I found the vibration of the womb. And I found that it had overtones to it. It's not just one layer, it's like a deep spinning cosmos, And so I created a soundtrack to activate. So literally through the voice, my voice started to split into 2 or 3 different, or 4 sometimes, different overtones. And even though physically it looks like I'm singing one sound, but I'm layering the voice with those overtones because I've tuned in to the depth of the vibration of the womb. Or, for example, the vibration of the heart, which is so light. It's so bright. It's so beautiful, the heart, in its magnetic field, in the energy of the heart. So I'm tuning into the vibration of the heart. And I started to compose soundtracks using these overtones to open that heart to its magnificence and bring it together with a practice to open the heart. Now, this approach I then brought to the concert hall. Up until that point, I'd mostly been singing very feminine, sensual opening music. And most people came to me then because they loved the music, they loved to dance to it, they loved to cry to it, they had realizations and healings and things. But then I realized that actually I could bring that music, that kind of singing, lyrical kind of music, half the concert, and then the other half take them right deep
down in.
Yes. And so I take them into meditation at the same time using my voice. So sometimes I'm speaking them in, I'm giving them an actual practice to open their heart. They're breathing with me. And then I'm tuning different centers in their body with my voice, opening those centers. For example, opening up the heart, and you'll see, like, it looks like this, and everybody in the space, sometimes 6,000 people, opening the heart together. It's a profound energy. I mean, people are undulating, crying, sometimes orgasmic, or else then once they've come inside the body, very deeply resting, starting to know their inner cosmos, that inner beauty, that inner stillness, that silence, that flow of love, then I'll start to tune with very high overtones, the opening of their pineal gland, the opening of their crown to the soul, until they're flowing very beautifully. And at the same time, on screen, I have which is new technology, an auric field projector. So there's a special little box in front of me that is capturing my auric field as I'm singing, and it's projecting it on a massive screen. So they're seeing an overlay of my body, my auric field, and the vibration of my voice as I'm singing. So it creates this awareness directly as you're sitting in the audience that I'm not just the body, that I can see the vibration. This is me, you know? So that's very much, it's a very unique approach that I'm bringing into the world.
Unique indeed.
And so people can experience the inner cosmos directly. So often people who don't even meditate say it's the deepest experience that they've had. And now we've also started to document it with scientists, seeing what kind of changes are happening. And it's radical what's happening in one.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I have to interrupt you because we're at the end. And this, but it pains me so to interrupt, because this is, I could just go on and on and on with you, but I want people, we've got a minute left, so people can know where to find you. And they can Google this glorious woman and hear more about this story. And I'm going to have her back on if she will agree to come back on, and we can dive into more of this work. But people can find you at Peruquois, PERUQUOIS.com. It's going to be in the show notes. You have a wonderful, glorious YouTube channel with all of your videos, etc. You've now got a book out, which I just discovered. It's not yet on your website, but you know, but it will be soon, I'm sure.
Yes, that one's in Russian so far. So we weren't really. Yeah. But yes, if they go to Peruquois.com, all that I just spoke about, this experience of opening, these voices and things are all inside these special courses. So if you look, you'll find this mix of voice, practice, breath. Maybe I have 15 online courses. So go in there, look at what you are feeling you need to help to heal in yourself. And every course has 2 or 3 free classes. So you can see, is this for me, you know, and to support you on your journey of opening up your womanly energy, opening up that sensuality and healing a lot of that trauma.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much for coming on the edge of every day and sharing your wisdom and your beauty and your insights and your talent. Thank you. Any last words quickly for our audience before we say goodbye?
Well, I suggest you just put your hand on your heart today, like many times today. Take a deep breath and tell your heart, I love you, my heart.
Gorgeous. And to our listeners, with your hand on your heart, we at TalkRadio.NYC love you. Thank you for spending this hour with us. Remember, you are always at the edge of the miraculous. See you next time. Stay on.
This is our last dance. This is ourselves under pressure. Under pressure. Under pressure.
You're listening to